Hi, I'm Glenn Simpson. I've collected comics for over 40 years, and one thing I've learned is that other people who collect comics like to look at comics that belong to other people on the internet. So I'm rolling through my collection to kind of show it off. We're doing it one box at a time. Today we're doing box number 7. We're going to start with Alpha Flight, and we're going to end with some Amazing Spider-Man, and we're going to have a good time. It's rainy outside, so there's nothing better to do than hang in with some comics. Let's go. All right, we start, of course, with Alpha Flight number 1 from the 1980s. Kind of a key issue there. First solo series for Alpha Flight, the Canadian superhero team. It appeared in X-Men prior to that, and then various members had appeared in various places, and this was their first time appearing all as a team. That said, this first arc, the first 12 issues, you still didn't really get them all as a team until towards the end, but got the beautiful John Byrne was the writer and artist on this. So beautiful stuff. Always loved Vindicator / Guardians outfit there. You've got Northstar and Aurora, Snowbird, Sasquatch, Marrina, Shaman, Puck. Kind of this scene does not appear in the comic, of course, but that got them launching themselves into their new series. Then we go to issue number 2, which has Marrina undergoing some changes. She turns out she's an alien, kind of a Superman story. She's an alien that fell to Earth and had aquatic powers, but we're finding out that she may not be exactly what she thought she was. And what anyone else thought she was. And then we jump to the infamous Alpha Flight 6. So Snowbird fights a all-white creature in a snowstorm, and so there are a bunch of panels in this where it's literally just, there's no art, it's just the word balloons and things, because it's supposed to be, it's kind of like, a drawing of a polar bear in a snowstorm. It's like you can't see anything, so therefore there's really nothing to be drawn. And we can only assume that Byrne still got paid full price for drawing this issue, but it was a kind of a fun trick to do, gimmick for one issue. Then we're going to jump to Alpha Flight number 7. So now we're kind of jumping to Northstar and Aurora and some of their solo stuff. Aurora is a dual personality. She's got one personality, is very shy and practically a nun, and then she has her other personality who's very bold and outgoing and sexual, and they kind of struggle with that a lot with her in these early days, and that's what we're kind of dealing with here. Over here in number 10, we've got Alpha Flight 10. We've got Sasquatch having a solo storyline. I believe he is fighting the Super Skrull. If you're a big Super Skrull fan, you'll want to pick up Alpha Flight number 10. Let's see, we're kind of closing in on that that end. So we've got now we've got Vindicator / Guardian. I think he started off as Vindicator prior to the start of the series, and then he decided to call himself Guardian. And he is facing off against basically Beta and Gamma flights, just to spoil that, who are the sort of other teams created by the Canadian government. And inside here somewhere is Alpha Flight number 12, which is the death of Hudson, so he a Vindicator Guardian. So then we lose him, and we have some kind of other stuff going on. We've got his wife Heather, or widow, I guess, having kind of an adventure with Puck. Puck has kind of an unrequited love for Heather there. Let's see. We get back to the plot line of what is Marrina, what's going on with her, and Namor. So Marrina gets involved, as makes sense, since she's an underwater person and he's an underwater person, with Puck around to help out. Then we go to Alpha Flight 18. We've got some kind of, a day in the life. We've got Heather considering should she take over the role of her husband. You've got Shaman dealing with something that's taking over his daughter, and Snowbird kind of coming to grips with, she's half goddess or is a goddess or whatever, and can she have love for a mortal man? Then we go to, as it turns out, Shaman's daughter turns out all right and becomes a magic person herself called Talisman. This headband gives her magical powers, and so she winds up joining the team. I always thought that was kind of a cool outfit. I don't really see her much anymore with all the magicians and stuff. They usually use Shaman, but they don't use Talisman. Maybe she died somewhere and I forgot. We shift the focus back to Northstar and Aurora, and they are coming up against this sort of crime bossy kind of person called Pink Pearl. Here in Alpha Flight number 22. We go to Alpha Flight 23. We find out that we previously thought that Sasquatch, who was Dr. Walter Langowski, that the reason, he had infused himself with Gamma trying to become a Hulk, and he, wound up a Sasquatch, and it was never really clear why he didn't turn green or why things didn't work. And we find out that, just to give it away, that there's some Canadian deity magic going on, and so he is actually turned, been, I believe, Tanaraq. I may be getting that mixed up. A ancient Canadian god had gotten involved and, caused him to become what he became. And I believe that may be Snowbird, who has turned into a Sasquatch, and she's kind of lost it, and they're getting in a fight. We've got Alpha Flight number 26. Still some great burn art. We've got some other Canadian former Alpha, Beta, and Gamma Flight villains get together. I believe they're Omega Flight, and that includes Wild Child, who would go on to, he's a mutant, and he would go on to kind of appear a lot in both Alpha Flight, and then he would dabble a bit in the X-Men books. Diamond Lil, Flashback, he's one of those multiplying guys, and so they think they've got they've defeated the Alpha Flight, but wait, has Guardian returned? We shall see. Let's see. Turns out he didn't. It was a robot. He gets the one over on the rest of Alpha Flight, and they've got to stop him. So somewhere in here, right about this time, so Bill Mantlo and Gary Truog, I believe is how you pronounce it, were doing Hulk, and they had gotten tired of doing Hulk, and John Byrne had gotten tired of doing Alpha Flight, so they basically swapped. So we now have Gary Mantlo doing this, and this was when, so over in Hulk, that would be when he took over in Hulk. So we've got some changes coming, but this is one of his earlier issues. Alpha Flight 30. We go to Alpha Flight 31. The Alpha Flight has to deal with Deadly Earnest, with a kind of a death touch. They bring, we meet Nemesis, who is a kind of a cool, who is Nemesis kind of thing going on. We got Puck with a sword that's bigger than he is. Kind of cool stuff. We got Mike Mignola doing covers. He would go on to do Hellboy, for those who are not familiar with Mignola. We got Alpha Flight 34, dealing with, we have Wolverine returning. He was kind of an off and on Alpha Flight member, showing up in the book every once in a while. I always thought it was funny that I really like this version of the costume with the cowl on Heather Hudson, but they never actually had that version in the book. I don't know if that was an early design, and then Mignola did his covers, and then they changed it. But she always has the visor look to her face in the actual books. But we're also getting into some Lady Deathstrike stuff. Actually, where is it? It's just in there. So inside here is is issue number 33, which I'm sure you would have preferred to see. But anyway, which was the first appearance of Lady Deathstrike. And so this is the next issue following that. Hey, any channel can show you a major key. I show you the issue after the major key. So, you're getting special content from me. Let's see. Alpha Flight number 35. Classic D&D almost. Oh no, skeletons. Got to fight skeletons. Shaman and his daughter dealing with some mystical stuff there. Alpha Flight 38. Now we're getting back into that Shaman storyline I discussed. I think as I recall, that would be the old northern god that shaped him into Sasquatch, as opposed to just becoming a Hulk. And there are the other old gods, several of them that they had dealt with in previous issues. And then we go to Alpha Flight number 39. Alpha Flight teaming up with the Avengers. Always kind of fun when they have team ups like this, because you can kind of say, oh, okay, this is what this is what our team now Alpha Flight looked like at the same time. This is what was going on. This was the lineup in Avengers at the time, with Hercules and Black Knight and that kind of thing. Captain Marvel, Monica Rambeau still there. So they're getting together to deal with some stuff. We've got Alpha Flight 42. Okay, so now we're starting to lose the big name artists, and that kind of thing. But we've got in Alpha Flight 42, we clearly have the team going up against just some dudes with guns. We've got the Purple Girl, who is the daughter of the Purple Man. The Purple Man being possibly, you may know him from the Jessica Jones TV show from Netflix, and who is going to, with Jessica Jones being about to appear in the Daredevil season 2 on Disney. So there's that. And we go to Alpha Flight 43 with the Sentinels, who are always chasing, trying to track down mutants, and they've come for Northstar because he is a mutant, and then should be looking for Aurora as well, and they are going after them. Then Alpha Flight 46, we've got June Brigman, classic artist, did a lot of the Power Pack, and he is. We got Sasquatch, who's kind of got a white form now, going up against Box, who was the guy who's a robot, has a robot body. He's disabled in his normal body, but he's able to shunt his whole body, merge with the robot, and control that. We've got a little solo Vindicator. So I think Heather became Vindicator when she took on the costume after Jimmy had died. When he died, he was Guardian, having already been Vindicator. Clear as mud. Alpha Flight 47 there. We've got, we jumped to Alpha Flight 50 with Loki showing up for the Loki fans. No Loki collection is complete without Alpha Flight 50. There had been some suggestions that perhaps in addition to or instead of Aurora and Northstar being mutants, they were actually elves from Asgard, or from, one of the Asgardian setting realms. That didn't last. That did not get revisited much. We go to a little guy named, this isn't it, but I think on the interior, this is Hilary Barta doing the cover. But somewhere in here, we've got a kid named Jim Lee starts doing some artwork for Marvel. You might have heard of him. But we've got this addition of the team with the big white Sasquatch, and that's still Box, and somewhere in here is the guy Madison Jeffries, who's kind of like Forge. He can build things with his mind. Let's see, then we go to Alpha Flight 54. We've got the team. We've still got Purple Girl on the team. There was a little girl who could turn into this sort of demon-y looking thing that joined for a while. This is artwork by Kevin Nolan, a classic artist there at Marvel. Let's see, here we got Alpha Flight 55. Again, as they tend to do, the Alpha Flight goes up against the Elder Gods, as they called them. And we've got this version of Box going up against the Tundra, I believe was his name. And then we go to Alpha Flight 58. The team is on the run from, I believe her name was the Shadow Queen, a big magician type of guy. We have a mannequin who could produce futuristic and past version and caveman type versions of his own body, which is a fairly unique power set. I'm not saying it's a good, but it's unique. We've got Alpha Flight 59. We've got Puck. Puck had been, we learned in a previous issue that the reason Puck was a little person was because he had been magically made that way. He hadn't been born that way. But that same magic was keeping him alive over a long period of time. So when the spell was reversed and he became full-sized, he also aged. So that's why we have old Puck there dealing with some stuff. And at Alpha Flight 59, we've got the reunion, if you will, of the Purple Man. I believe Purple Man was dead, or had been until today, and his daughter Purple Girl with, gosh, I don't remember her name, with the little demon girl helping out on that. Then we go to Box taking on the U.S. Air Force. Somewhere in here, I believe Alpha Flight went all direct. So this was a time that we had previously been at a point when every comic was both sold in the newsstand and in in direct store, comic book shops. And then we gradually started moving towards where comics were only sold in comic book shops. And so you had a few series early on that did that just quit newsstand distribution. And you can kind of tell that when there's no barcode area at all. That means that it was in that period of time when they were not selling on the newsstand at all. A little sip there. Then we go to a little Civil War intergroup going on. Oh, I'm sorry, I left this out. So I'm sorry. So he Mannequin turns into, he's got a caveman form, a future form, and an early protoplasmic form. You know, because that's what we all want to have as a superpower. And there's some Lee times 2, so I think Jim must be one of those Lees involved in the creation of that piece of art. We go to Alpha Flight number 67, Wrath of the Dream Queen. So this chick that they had fought in an earlier issue comes back and starts to make their life difficult. She's a bit like, I'm sorry, I said Shadow Queen earlier. Yeah, Dream Queen. She's a bit like Nightmare. I think they're related. So she's kind of attacking in their dreams or pulls them into a dream world, that kind of thing. But then we take a little turn on the art. I forget this guy's name, Hudnall. I think Hudnall was the writer. But this was a guy, he probably really hit his deadlines, and they probably appreciated that. Didn't charge much. But we've got Talisman fighting the Dream Queen in that issue. We go to Alpha Flight 71. We're regrouping. We're getting there. The resurrection of the sorcerer. We're getting our act together here and having a beauty shot here in Alpha Flight 71. We jump quite a few here to Alpha Flight 78. Team is dealing with I think this is the Master of the World is his code name. We had met him in an earlier issue. We've got some international heroes going on there, lots of different kind of fronts that this is going on, but we've got Doctor Strange participating in this story. Let's see, we go to Snowbird 9. So this was during the Acts of Vengeance crossover, and there was a certain amount of crossoverness to it, but it was basically almost just a theme where all of the heroes would deal with villains who were not one of their typical villains. So, for example, the Scorpion, who normally fights Spider-Man, fought Alpha Flight. I think that was the villains got together and said, hey, this might be a good way for us to all win. Let's go up against opponents that we don't normally fight. We've got Alpha Flight number 86. There's Leland the Sorcerer. Remember earlier it said the Rise of the Sorcerer. So he's some big sorcerer dude. We got Doctor Strange helping out, which is always good when you're fighting a major sorcerer. And this would be the cataclysmic confrontation of that here in Alpha Flight 86. Moving on. We get a little improvement on the art there. Some Jim Lee action, early Jim Lee. With Alpha Flight. We've got Wolverine. We've got, remember I said Wild Child would show up kind of. He's a little mini Wolverine. And I think they wind up tying him back in some ways to the same project or Weapon X type program that messed with Wolverine, and trying to kind of get some leverage out of him because of that, because Wolverine's was so popular. We go to Alpha Flight 90, where I think we've actually had a real return of Guardian, and My copy is lucky enough to have a big old fingerprint on it. Hopefully yours is not that lucky. But we've got the group kind of rebuilding, and we have the return of Nemesis and things like that. We're getting the group getting a new Alpha Flight put together. And this guy, Dr. Doom. As of time of recording, this is probably ought to be a hotter issue. But Dr. Doom has the thirst for power. And he, here in Alpha Flight number 1, Alpha Flight has to deal with the Monarch of Latveria. Alpha Flight number 98, the Alpha Flight deals with some aliens, you know, as you do. They've got this must be when they've got the cool sort of matching, well, except Puck's not wearing it, but they started wearing some sort of matching costumes, getting matchy. Alpha Flight hanging out with the Avengers again, and kind of a cosmic event, the Avengers, cosmic adventure, dealing with Galactus. This is probably during that time also. Let's see, they may have gone back to the newsstand, because we're back to having a box, because this was I know that there's some, like over in Quasar, they had to do special issues just for the newsstand for a crossover, but I don't know if they were doing that here. But it looks like they're back on the newsstand, because they do have the box back for the direct editions. Then we jump to Alpha Flight 102, not new hero, Weapon Omega, and fighting Diablo. He's kind of I think of him as a Fantastic Four villain. I may be forgetting, he may have started off fighting somebody else. He's the sort of alchemist, turning iron into gold and turning things into other things, controlling things. We've got Alpha Flight going up against U.S. Agent John Walker, currently appearing in the Thunderbolts movie. Got Diablo kind of controlling Sasquatch, who got a weird kind of haircut. Tom Morgan, artist, just kind of rethought how his hair looked, and I'm not sure what. Maybe it was just an art thing, it was a style thing. And then we jump to, here we go, infamous 106, where Northstar comes out and confesses, or admits, or comes out as being gay. The first openly gay superhero in Marvel Comics, at the very least. So that's a kind of a landmark issue. Let's see, we've got Alpha Flight World Tour 92. This didn't last long enough. They kind of went to various other countries and met heroes there, and it really didn't last as long as I thought it should, because I was really enjoying it. But started off with him coming to America and meeting X Factor, and so here they've got they are wearing the X Factor costumes that all of the X Factor heroes wear, and it's over by number 110. And so we've got Alpha Flight being drawn by Pat Broderick, another classic artist. I think of him as a DC artist, but that may not necessarily be fair. But he's one of the greats, right up in there with Perez and Giordano and all that group, and Art Adams. But he's taken over the art duties on Alpha Flight. Broderick was a kind of a co-creator on the redo of Captain Atom for DC. Just to throw a little factual stuff out there. Then we've got spoiler, Weapon Omega, that was in that earlier issue. Yeah, it's Wild Child. He had, he got his head straight, got his wild side under control, but here in Infinity War, the big crossover there, all the heroes were fighting sort of weird demonic versions of themselves. So in the case of Wild Child, I think his weird demonic version was just himself from, you know, in his previous form. Then we go to number 1, Alpha Flight 114, Bloodlines, lots of blood, and I don't think there's actually that much blood. We get the premiere of, I believe the villain is called Wire, W-Y-R-E, kind of a Cable type of guy. Got a lot going on there. In fact, I'm right, because there he is. I don't know. Wire struck me as a little odd. Don't know who came up with Wire, but that's a goofy power. But he's got all of the Alpha Flight. Apparently Puck got better. And this is Wind Shear, who is a mutant with wind powers. I think of anybody else we just haven't met before. I think that's it. And then we jump to Alpha Flight 118. We've got the Alpha Flight dealing with Thunderball from the Wrecking Crew. Wrecking Crew being kind of a classic Thor group of villains. We've got Nemesis having returned to the team. And we're going to go to... But hey, you know, they beat Thunderball, but he went and got his buddies. So now we've got the whole Wrecking Crew that Alpha Flight is going to have to deal with. So I always thought it was weird. One of these guys, if you read like the Marvel handbooks, like I think it's this guy, he's like a doctor. And I was like, okay. And he went from being a doctor to being a big dumb supervillain. Not just the fact that he's a supervillain, he's a big dumb supervillain. Then we go to Alpha Flight 122, a little crossover there. Roderick giving Sasquatch an even shorter haircut. So apparently back in those classics, that was just in the classic issues, he must have just had like long hair, and now everybody's getting like closer and closer haircuts every time. We go to Alpha Flight 123. We've got this character Witchfire that the team is fighting. I believe that's Weapon Alpha again. He kind of has now he's got a bit of a medium costume that shows more of his Wild Child look. But we've got the Vindicator there. This is an Infinity Crusade crossover. So that's going on. Then the art falls apart again. 126, Alpha Flight 126. We got the team, got them fighting something called Carcass, and who appears to be a big demonic thing. We've got the return of Diamond Lil. We've got Box is in there. Madison, Jeffries, some of the other classic versions of the heroes, or members of the team, as it were. And then Alpha Flight going to team up with X Factor again, and some other, well, not X Factor. I recognize Strong Guy, but no, I guess this is part of another crossover. And this Dario Carrasco is doing art, and the team is just not getting along with the other major heroes at the time. And we end this edition of Alpha Flight with a cover of, I believe we had yet another return of James Hudson at the end of that series, but they decided to both continue to be Vindicator, Guardian, etc. So then we go to, we've got a couple of Alpha Flight annuals. We've got the whole team from back in towards the earlier run, part of that run, that annual. Nice beauty shot. We've got this one, which I believe was a solo adventure of Heather. Kevin Nolan cover on that again. She has fighting a dinosaur, you know, as you do. So then we jump forward a few years, as you can almost just clearly tell by the artwork. We've got a new Alpha Flight team, and it's a few of the classics with some new characters that formed the team. As I've said in further videos, the longer the jump, the lower the value of the books. We jump all the way to issue 8. We've got Heather and her. She's got some kind of different suit where she controls volcanic forces rather than the zap fly suit that she had before. And she's kind of, they've got some evil looking Wolverines-y things coming at them. Let's see, we've got Alpha Flight 9 with more, I don't know, I think maybe in the previous issue they were like, hey, these Wolverines came after us, and so then they go looking for the real Wolverine, but maybe that wasn't really a Wolverine that came after them the first time. So we've got the team meeting up with Wolverine here in Alpha Flight Volume 2, number 9. And then we jump to number 16 with the this Reign of Terror. Duncan Rouleau does the cover art here. He's a little more cartoony than I usually like, but I gotta say, I didn't hate it here. There's definitely always like gonna be one artist working at any given time, at least, that's kind of got that type of style. So it's an interesting look that he gives things. Not you know, a kind of realistic thing like we're used to with a Perez or a sort of a Byrne or Neil Adams. And he participated in this issue, which is an early appearance of Big Hero 6. Big Hero 6 being a sort of a Japanese superhero team, or Chinese, dang, sorry. And they, of course, had a cartoon that was extremely different from what had been presented in the comics. This was before the MCU, so it was a sort of a separate little license, and they don't really show up much in the comics anymore since then. I'm not sure what's going on with Big Hero 6. I've got a few different comics, but this is their first or second appearance, something like that, here in Alpha Flight number 17. We've got Alpha Flight number 18, some sort of new Weapon X with some big ass thing sticking out of his back. That seems cumbersome. No wonder he's bent over like that. And we've got the team dealing with that. We've got this guy who is kind of he's a man sort of submerged into a huge ass robotic body. We've got Puck looking very French there, which I guess is appropriate. So interesting looks being given to all the group there. And this series ended with issue number 20, and we've got the team having a little bit of a beauty shot. They're fighting their own previous selves there, and having an end of the series there. During this series was the year 1998, when the annuals were all named funny. They didn't just say like Alpha Flight Annual. They were Alpha Flight and Inhumans Annual. So I think most people file it under whatever the name was for the first name in the crossover, or whichever one had a book, if that makes any difference. But we have the Alpha Flight and the Inhumans meeting up. We can actually, because this one doesn't have a board because it's not worth that much, we can actually see the full thing there. So that's pretty cool. We go to the next series a few years later. Clayton Henry doing the art on that. He's still around. And again, a couple of classic members teaming up with some new heroes to form a new team. And we got Nemesis and Sasquatch from the old team. Then we go. Their adventures continue into issue number 6, where this new team meets most of the past members, and this was the first arc called "You Gotta Be Kidding Me." So there was a lot of humor. It's written by Scott Lobdell, so there's going to be a lot of comedy there. It wasn't taking the concept too seriously. So if you're a serious Alpha Flight aficionado, you might not like that. Then we pick up with issue 7 on that series of kind of a beauty shot there of Sasquatch. He's getting he just got out of the shower, and he's got a full body hair dryer thing going on. And then we go to number 12, the end of this run, which is an homage to, I believe, the first series is issue number 12, which had all the little who will die kind of things, which would turn out to be Guardian that was going to die. But so it's an homage to the first series is issue number 12's cover. Let's see, then jump forward a few years. We go to Alpha Flight. They had a new series. For some reason, it started with a .1. Well, I think they were doing a lot of .1s back then. Usually it was in the middle of the series, not at the start. But hey, anything's doable. Some beauty art by, I believe, Phil Jimenez, who is one of my favorites. He did that cover. We got Greg Pak involved in the writing. Given some more realistic personalities to some of them, as I recall. This was in the midst of the Fear Itself storyline, which had to do with a lot of some Asgardian god of fear had come and was invading Earth, and there were lots of different hammers similar to Thor's hammer being given out, and the Red Skull's daughter was involved, and I've sort of forgotten about that, what the details were on that crossover. But Fear Itself was going on at the start of this limited series, and then we get to the end. Clearly, Heather and James are not getting along. Poor James, he keeps getting killed or replaced by robots or whatever. We've got then this very recent Fall of X was at the end of the Krakoa period. We've got our Canadian heroes. So there are a lot of mutants in Alpha Flight, and this was a time when mutants were being openly hunted, and so the team is the non-mutant parts of the team are pretending to work for the government to hunt down the mutants while secretly helping them in the background, basically. And that's issue 1, and that extends to issue 4 of that. We have the Son of Wolverine there. We got various members of the team. We still got Nemesis in there. She's hanging in there. She never seems to appear anywhere other than in Alpha Flight books, but there she is. All right, then we get some kinds of one-shots and things. During that Pat Broderick period of time, we had an Alpha Flight special showing an early version of the X-Men that Wolverine led, that some of the members didn't survive, and so it was, things didn't go well, and it was part of the reason why, I believe, part of the goal here was to explain why Wolverine didn't want to be a part of Alpha Flight. And it's because because that first mission didn't go very well. We've got this one shot, Alpha Flight True North, from a few years ago. got kind of a lot of Canadian artists working on it, I believe. Just kind of, I think this is one of those, hey, we need to get something out with Alpha Flight in the name on the cover. But I recall it being a kind of a neat little one-shot. So now we're getting into Amazing. So, and I've got just kind of a smattering of things I've picked up over time. Don't necessarily have full runs of everything. We've got Amazing Adventures. This series was, or this version of Amazing Adventures was kind of an anthology, or different series running in it for limited periods of time. And so War of the Worlds was running. This was based on the, generally speaking, the H.G. Wells Martian invasion. And then years later, this guy Killraven is leading a rebellion to sort of save humanity in that situation. So there's the allusion to the H.G. Wells thing. We've got another issue from that. He goes into an old some area that has like holograms of the old Marvel heroes who are distorted. So it gives us a chance to have him see the Marvel heroes, but they're not really there or anything. So that's issue 38. So that ran for a while. Then we had another Amazing Adventures series that focused on reprinting early X-Men stories. So here we've got issue number 1 with the reprint of Amazing Adventures X-Men number 1. This must be, I think, a Whitman variant, because it's got the bar line through the barcode. So this may have come through in a 3-pack at some point. Then we jump to issue number 5 of that. I guess reprinting X-Men number 5, if I remember correctly. And we have the original X-Men dealing with Blob. We go to number 6, which somebody must have decided. Sometimes they do that with these reprint series. They're like, the original cover, I don't think so. So somebody draws a new cover. So this is one of the ones where they drew a new cover for the issue here that's reprinting, presumably X-Men number 6. I say presumably because some of these other reprint series didn't start at the beginning, or the series that they're reprinting didn't start at number 1. But we know X-Men started at 1, and I think this was all 1 per 1, so that should be right. And another fresh cover. I like the Angel. I like the black, all black on that, and the more sleevey thing, loose sleeves on Beast for in this reprint of X-Men number 9. Go to Amazing Adventures number 10. Another, is that a new cover? No, I think that may be the original. And we've got Magneto with the Evil Mutants. We've got your Scarlet Witch and your Quicksilver, your Mastermind, and your Toad. And Angel is trapped. And what are you going to do? Angel is so funny because he's not really all that powerful, but he's just got a great look. I mean, like, of all the X-Men, they decided to put him in the corner box just because it's just that winged hero thing just looks really cool, even though there's not much he ends up, he can kind of do when he's regular Angel. And then we go to 14, which reprints X-Men 14, Unus the Untouchable. He has a force field that reflects everybody away from him, so he never has to, no dust on him, man. He can do that. All right, so then we get to, so obviously, sorry, no original Amazing Fantasy number 14, but they did this short series starting with 16 and ending with 18, which was written by, I believe, Kurt Busiek. And it was just, hey, what would it be like if, what adventures did Spider-Man have between Amazing Fantasy 15 and and Amazing Spider-Man #1. So there were these 3 little issues there. Kind of cool. Let's look at the back issue of that again. So he's basically fighting this guy in all 3 issues. Obviously not going really for looking like, they're using more modern art, but just kind of telling that story. Now here's an interesting item that I have, and you will see this filed under Spider-Man Collectible Series, and I probably should move this to the S's, but this is a giveaway that went into newspapers, and they reprinted Amazing Fantasy 15, and then they did Amazing 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. I can't remember how many issues they did. So, and it was kind of a promotional giveaway. I think probably the back cover had an ad for some, company that would pay to have these done. But my copy is a little unique. I got this directly from the company that was doing the program, and mine says sales sample, property of News America Marketing. And so even when you find this in the price guides, it's not, that copy is not there. So this is more like an ash can kind of thing. So I'm not sure what this thing is worth, but I've got it in the, in the top loader just in case. Then we jump to this from a couple of years ago, Amazing Fantasy 1000. Just kind of an excuse to do a 1000 issue and tell some stories. Then we go to the sort of volume 2, if you will, of Amazing Fantasy, starting over with #1 with this character who I'm blanking on at the moment. And she had spider powers. She was not really a spider character at the time. She was kind of doing her own thing. There was this whole idea that there was a cult of spiders and a cult of wasps, and they were at war with each other, and she was the latest sort of avatar of the cult of spiders. That'll probably remind me. And she would go on to be, here's the 5th issue, she would go on to become more of a traditional spider person in, with the Spider-Verse and that kind of thing. But she got her start here in Amazing Fantasy 1 through 5, and it looks like it continues into #6. Very cool, very cool. Cool artwork by Mark Brooks. Mark Brooks does a lot of cover work now, mostly more covers. I love his covers. Then we jump to a new feature featuring a new version of Scorpion, who's more of a young girl, villainy kind of person. Doing that. She pops up every once in a while. That was #9. Then we jump to we go to number 10, which still has another Scorpion story, but it has a bonus story of Nina Price, Vampire by Night, trying to kind of generate more next generation heroes for Marvel. So that one is, because of that first appearance, that one is worth a little bit more. Then we go to 11, continuing the Scorpion story that had been running there. I seem to recall it being pretty good. I'm blanking on the details, and it's still got Vampire by Night running in the background. On the other hand, this guy, Vegas, I don't think I remember him doing much of anything after this. And you've got some backup of Captain Universe. If you're a Captain Universe fan, you'll want to pick up these issues. And then as a celebration, since of course the first Amazing Fantasy 15 was such a big deal. Then they made a big deal of Amazing Fantasy 15 in this series, and one of the characters that they introduce here is a new version of Mastermind Excello, aka Amadeus Cho. And so this is the first appearance of Amadeus Cho. He would go on to be a kind of a sidekick to the Hulk and hang out with Hercules, and would eventually become the totally awesome Hulk, and is now Brawn, where his shtick is that he's, you know, both smart and strong kind of thing, and is a member of kind of he winds up in the Champions a lot, but this is the first appearance of Amadeus Cho. Then we go to issue 16. We have a new version of Death's Head. Death's Head was kind of a UK character, had interacted with Doctor Who, and was a sort of robotic mercenary, and there's a couple of different versions of him, you know, even back then, and so this is the third one. And then we've got some Paladin. I don't remember if that's the original Paladin or a new one. And then we've got that series ended with Death's Head. That Death's Head apparently had shown up in Planet Hulk. And we've got somebody called Steam Rider, whom I don't think we've seen since. And then we go to yet another Amazing Fantasy series. This one is from a few years ago. It's the brainchild, or, you know, just a really, you know, individual artist thing of I don't know how you pronounce his name, Kaare Andrews, and it's sort of as if your major Marvel heroes get pulled out of time and space at various points, and thrown into this universe, this fantasy universe, and try to resolve the issues that they run into there. That's issue number 1. Now, it's beautiful. It's beautiful to look at. Just a weird concept. And we've got the last issue right there. So just as a reminder, so it's got Captain America, Spider-Man, Black Widow, and more. Got one issue here of Amazing Heroes, which was back in the day before the internet. You had these magazines about comics, and they had interviews and you know, let you know what was coming up and that kind of thing. And I have this one particularly because of the George Perez cover, and he's got an interview in there, and they talk a lot about what's going to happen after the crisis, which this is from about 1986, 87. And I recently picked this up out of like a dollar bin, just because you used to see the ads for it all the time. And it's just a little anthology series, trying to kind of, you know, in the flavor of heavy metal and epic and things like that. Just, you know, not really superhero stuff, but various artists and writers doing just various one-shot stories and short stories. Got a Bill Sienkiewicz cover there. Then we go to Amazing Mary Jane. From a few years ago, Mary Jane goes off to Hollywood to shoot a movie, and it turns out that Mysterio is the director. And this, I believe, I recall, kind of came out during COVID, so there was some question about whether it was going to finish or not. But I think it eventually did. And I take it didn't. At least not, because this was issue 6 is part 1 of a new adventure, and there is no, I don't think that issue 7 ever came out. It just got cut, because as they did with a few series during the COVID period of time. Then we go to Amazing Scarlet Spider. So in in the 70s, there's the classic Clone War, or Clone Saga, original Clone Saga, where the Jackal clones Peter Parker. So there's a clone of Spider-Man. They fight, the clone dies. Spider-Man disposes of the body, and we go on with our lives. And then in the 90s, they said, well, what if that clone didn't die? What if there were more clones? And then it becomes, well, what if the Spider-Man who won wasn't really not what if in the sense of, the what if series, but like, they established that the Spider-Man who won the fight was actually the clone, and has been living as Peter Parker all this time, and the one that has been in hiding all this time is actually really Peter Parker, the original. So then, the quote-unquote clone decides to take over as Spider-Man, so he's Spider-Man for a while, and then it all gets worked back out. But at any rate, you end up with this new spider person named Ben Riley, named after Uncle Ben, and Riley being Aunt May's maiden name. And he is a new hero. He is the clone of Spider-Man, and Scarlet Spider is kind of the name he takes when he's a hero, while Peter Parker is still being Spider-Man. And there was this brief little span where they did 1 or 2 issues of each of the major Spider-Man books, with him as the star instead of a regular. So this one was amazing. So Amazing Scarlet Spider #1, and then there was a big crossover or 2 going on through them all. And then we have Amazing Scarlet Spider, part of the Cyber War, over here. And is that that's Bagley? Okay, yeah, that's still Mark Bagley, very famous, well-known comic book Spider-Man artist. He got the gig, his first Marvel gig, on the basis of the official Marvel tryout book that had gone out. It was a big book. It was huge in size because it was the size of the art boards, and you had a Spider-Man story that had started off only being written, and then you had a part of it that was penciled, and then you had a part of it that was penciled and inked, and you had and so you could, as a tryout, you could do the parts that hadn't been done on that story, and he got a gig from turning that. You could send it in at the end, and as a sample of your work, and he got the work. So he was and he's still plugging away. He would go on to do the Ultimate Spider-Man, the first series. Okay, so Spider-Girl. Speaking of what ifs, so early on, or at some point, they did a what if Spider-Man had retired, and he had gone on and had a daughter, and the daughter became Spider-Girl, and that one issue was so popular that they decided to give her her own series, ongoing series, and they did a whole little universe taking place in that sort of universe where all of the normal heroes were older, and there was a next generation of heroes, but Spider-Girl was probably the only one that really lasted out of that, and she would go on to show up in some of the Spider-Verse stuff as well. And this was her normal title. Her main title was just Spider-Girl. The title kept getting canceled, and then there would be a lot of fan uproar, and then they would bring it back. And they did that quite a few times with the just plain Spider-Girl, adjectiveless Spider-Girl. And then I think at some point they just to try a different way of spicing things up, they switched it over to Amazing Spider-Girl. And this was the number 0 issue that they did for that. And then, of course, number 1 is inside. And then we jump to this fight with some dude named Mad Dog. And I think she had retired at the end of the last series, and so she's back, which is why this is Whatever Happened to the Daughter of Spider-Man. She's coming back. We've got issue 5. We've got the Kingpin still around. We've got some modern versions of Hobgoblin and Black Tarantula and that Mad Dog dude, and things are going down for real. We jump to issue number 9. I do not have this full series, by the way, but we've got some involvement of S.H.I.E.L.D. in Amazing Spider-Girl. This issue number 9. Then I'm working on it, but I don't have all these yet. But I jump to issue 23. This is the sort of thing I pick up out of dollar boxes when I find issues that I don't already have. Brand New May, which is a play on the Brand New Day storyline from the regular Spider-Man books. In this version, Kane kind of stays kind of older and ugly, whereas in the regular sort of 616, Kane becomes yet another Scarlet Spider. Let's see, we've got number 24. Was that? Yeah, 23. This is 24. Spider-Girl, she gets cloned herself. So she is May and her clone is April. Yuckity yuckity yuck. And and April isn't as sweet as May is, and April is trying to take over Spider-Girl's life, if I remember correctly. Then we've got issue 27. Turns out Black Tarantula is kind of hot, and but also, if I remember correctly, that's not our May. That's April, who's a bad girl, who's kind of a bad girl anyway. She likes bad boys, and so romance ensues. All right, and we're going to get into something you're probably more interested in. We've got Amazing Spider-Man -1. Marvel did this line of -1 issues. I believe they were set, during a month when there were only 4 weeks, and so this was a way of getting some more comics into the 5th week. It's a story that takes place, in theory, before Spider-Man. Each series is number 1. Even the classic, those classic series like Amazing Spider-Man. And in this one, Peter Parker gets his hands on a pack of his Uncle Ben's comic books from the 1940s and learns about heroes like Captain America and that sort of thing. Of course, you've got some real Marvel comics in there. The idea being that back in that universe, the comic books are just retelling the stories of things that actually happen to the real heroes as best they can. Then I've got this weird reprint of, let me make sure that you can see that. Yeah, you're good. Of Amazing Spider-Man number 6. It's undersized. It must have come with a toy or something. So I could probably look it up and figure out remember what it was, but it came with a toy of some sort. Is that? Dude, and the barcode sticker is right on it. I just noticed that. I'm going to have to work on getting that barcode sticker off very carefully. And I've got a few facsimiles here, just when they came out. Thought they'd be fun. True Believers, things like that. So we've got issue number 86. Got back when the Black Widow movie was coming out. They put out some reprints. So we've got a reprint of Amazing Spider-Man number 86. It had the Black Widow in it. Number True Believers of 95. I don't remember why, what that was tied into. But, probably maybe No Way Home, the movie, since he was Far From Home, in England or in Europe. Maybe that's what that was tied into. Reprint of issue number 101. probably came out when the Morbius movie was being produced, was being released. So that there would be something on this land. We've got these facsimiles of 121, and then also got the next issue, facsimile of 122. Maybe that one was No Way Home, not sure. It doesn't, but they're facsimiles. It's a real thing. Some real books, although I don't have a full run, even starting from here. At some point along the line, I picked up this Amazing Spider-Man 133. I think I had this in the Marvel Tales. In fact, I still may have it in the Marvel Tales at some point. And I think I may have picked this up as a sort of nostalgia thing. But we got Spider-Man dealing with the Molten Man, who is the stepbrother of Liz Allen, who was in some sort of accident. Ours. And I personally count to 158. Spider-Man, dealing with Dr. Octopus and the Ghost of Hammerhead. Threatening Aunt May there. 160, featuring the Spider-Mobile, the greatest car in comic books. Just kind of silly, in with the Tinkerer. This one, I remember somebody. I remember seeing this. Maybe my older brother had this. This was one that, I remember from way back, reading as a tiny kid. Those marks. I remember the marks and the Spider-Mobile coming to rescue Spider-Man. Got this amazing number 161, with Spider-Man meeting Nightcrawler, and this is also an early appearance of the Punisher here in Amazing Spider-Man 161. That moves into 162. Continuing that storyline, you're going to get individual issues here, of course, because so many of them are sort of big, important issues that they're not bundled together with anything else, or there's so many of them close together, or they're just not. There's not a full run. When you see me with a little pack, that means that I have everything in between the two issues in between. So if I don't have all of the issues, then they're not going to be packed up. 163, Spider-Man versus the Kingpin. Kingpin really showing off his strength there. We've got 164, continuing that Kingpin storyline. Beauty. Got 165. I'm going to go kind of fast because I don't want to tie up too much time. Fighting Stegron in his in a museum. Brought the skeletons to life. 166. Now we've got the Lizard and Stegron teaming up. Let me make some room in the back of the box to get these back in. It's the Lizard and Stegron individually are a threat. What are you going to do, Spidey, when you're dealing with both of them? And they team up. You've got 167 with fighting J. Jonah Jameson manning his Spider Slayer. And because I can see the next cover, I can tell you that the new superstar is Will-O-the-Wisp. That is appearing here apparently for the first time. And I know that because I have this cover, Amazing Spider-Man 168, going on. They're having a little fight there. I haven't seen him in a while. To be the next big superstar, he hasn't shown up much. We have some solid Marvel continuity here. So 169, this storyline involves Spider-Man. Remember I said that he disposed of the clone's body, and so there were some pictures taken, and J. Jonah got his hands on them, and this, I believe this involves, like, making it seem like photos that were not doctored, making them appear doctored, so that to prove that Peter Parker is not Spider-Man. Although I remember this being like, well, wait a minute, doesn't this prove he's not Spider-Man because you're seeing them together or not? You know, I don't know. That one always struck me as odd. Then 170, we've got Spider-Man fighting Dr. Faustus, whom I remember as more of a Captain America villain, but he's going through some hallucinations while dealing with Dr. Faustus. We've got jump to a few not so hot issues. We've got this Amazing Spider-Man side by side with Nova. This was an early sort of series crossover, so part 1 was over here and part 2 was in Nova, or vice versa, I forget, but kind of had that crossover going on there. And then in Amazing Spider-Man 173, you've got the return of the Molten Man, the man who can buy no shoes, and we've got Liz Allen over there, whom everybody needs to save. They need to quit fighting because that's his sister and his friend. Get over it, guys. Save Liz. And in this box, finally, we have the return of the Punisher, Amazing Spider-Man 174, the Hitman. Hey, if you like the Punisher, you'll love the Hitman. Probably not. But we've got the return of the Punisher there as the Hitman is going after J. Jonah Jameson. All right, that's it. So we will hit box number 8 next time. We're going to continue with Amazing Spider-Man in that box and have a good time with that. Hope you'll respond and let me know how I'm doing. Let me know what you want to see. Let me know any changes and give me some feedback, and hope you have a great day.